Hello and welcome. Have you ever wondered how to make your character play the animation you want at the moment you want it to? Implementing animation in Unreal can seem overwhelming at first, but if we break it down to the fundamentals, you will realize that it was easier than you thought. The goal of this tutorial is to give you a good understanding of the animation workflow inside Unreal Engine 5 and give you the tools to create your own animation blueprints so you can start having fun with your characters. We will talk about how to import a character, learn about the animation blueprint, how to use state machines, Blendspaces, and at the end, I'll give you a small example on how to implement an attack animation using Animation Montages. And before I forget, if you want to support us in any way, be sure to check out our store. We have a lot of cool stuff like a free blueprints course, another to model a castle inside Unreal, and our marketplace assets that were made with care and effort. Now, let's continue. Let's start by importing a character. First, let's go to the content browser, create a folder called your character name. This character currently is in a work in progress, so I wanted to test also if the skinning was alright. So let's import it. Right click, import, and let me find it on all my stuff here. And I wanted this simple with the no code. Alright, so here's a first barrier. Here it says import a skeletal mesh. If it doesn't detect it as a skeletal mesh, it's because you have exported your character without the bones. Right? You could, if I wanted only the mesh, I could uncheck this. But in the case that this wasn't checked automatically, then you have exported your character wrong. Also, if you wanted only the animations, and here it said animation, it would mean that it has the bones and the movement, but it doesn't have the mesh. So just a little thing to take in account if you find yourself in a position where this doesn't show as import skeletal mesh. Now, we don't want to put anything here in the skeleton because we want Unreal to generate it. We will see that a skeletal mesh will consist on the skeleton asset, the mesh itself, and the physics asset. No animations is needed. I mean, if you click here, it will probably export an idle animation, or well, not even an animation, a pose, really. This transform, we really don't need to mess around with it. Convert scenes usually works depending on with which program you're working. Leaving this by default should be fine. And well, if you need the materials, well, we can choose local, create new materials, etc. I don't need it really, but I'm gonna let it be like this. It's gonna look a little weird, but I want to show it like that. So let's click on import. We could click on import all, it's just one file, so it really doesn't matter. So it's importing the file, the skeletal mesh, and it's creating the materials that it needs to use, right? So right now, my mesh has been imported. Some textures has been pulled from the Blender file, and the materials needed has been created. If you select it with no materials, then you will only see these three files. This is the skeletal mesh, the physics asset, and the skeleton. So let's double click our skeletal mesh, see how it's looking. And it seems it brought some of the textures, really basic textures and materials. At the end, I will switch to better materials. Yeah, so it's a lot better. and it's pleasant to the eye. But for now, it's good enough. So here on my skeletal mesh editor is just the persona editor where you can see the skeletal mesh and you can switch easily to the skeleton. What's the difference? In the skeleton, you will see all the joints that you have put in your rig, in your character. And you can show here the bones, character bones, all hierarchy. And we can see that this character has been rigged using the Unreal standard. Here we see root, pelvis, head, clavicle. This one should be called head, only head. I don't know why it's being called head 1, but let's just leave it there. So here also you can test if it's working. You really don't need to. And yeah, don't save it. It shouldn't affect anything, but this skeletal mesh and this specific editor for the skeleton is the main editor when we want to retarget animations. We can find the retarget manager here. If we click it, we will open the tab. We will use it eventually. Let's just know. Don't worry about that just yet. So let me select only. So depending on the bone, on the part of the character I select, shows the bone. That's fine. Let me save it. It's asking me to save it because I just imported everything. So let me just select everything here and save it. Now, the other part of this character is the mesh, the skeletal mesh. This, we can see the skeletal mesh. Here we will be able to preview some animations. We can change the materials, we can highlight or isolate. And also we can add the cloth effects. For example, little quick. Activate cloth. We can, I'm gonna deactivate it. Section selection, select the part that you want cloth to have created from this data section. You can create it and then you can start painting some cloth. So pretty interesting stuff here. But there's one asset that we have not talked about, right? The physical asset, and it's this one here. The physics asset, let's click it, will show how our character will behave if for some reason we activate the physics. So let's test it. The buttons should be here, simulate. Can I put it? No, I believe it doesn't let me. So simulate options, simulate, it's fine, simulate. So now we see how it would react to simulation. And if we went deeper and added the cloth stuff, the cloth will take in account this type of collisions. So whatever we set here, oops, simulate, it would take this collision. So we would probably need to fix it, right? For example, this is the pelvis, doesn't really reflect our character pelvis. So we can go to, where is it? Click here, body setup, primitives, capsule. We can just reset the center to go exactly to the bone. Remember the bones. So this is the pelvis bone. We just reset it to the center. We can reset also the rotation. And start from there, rotating it here and scaling it up and down, just for it to fit better with our character, right? That would be good enough for me. And you would need to do this for every single collision that you want to add, right? You can also mess around with the constraints if you don't want it to be this is really cool. For example, I can here simulate options, just simulate selected. I'm only simulating this leg, and it's really loose, this leg. Maybe I just want to constrain it to go forward and backward. Well, you can. Let's stop the simulation. Here in the constraint, you can start limiting all this stuff. There are some presets here, skeletal, but you can also just limit stuff, limit or lock everything. And this doesn't really give me that much information, right? With the swing limit, this one. Now I can see the swing here is this one, the twist is here. I could limit it to 0. Lock this, and let the C motion. And then when we will simulate, it will be locked. And it will behave weird if if we stretch it too much. So we can change all this stuff in our physics asset. I will leave it in skeletal for now. And I'll save it. So we have our character. We even can drag and drop it to our scene. But this doesn't mean that it's alive. It's just like a statue here, right? At most, I could activate its physics and see what happens, right? Yeah. So you could say it's kind of alive. But let's get to the animation part, right? We have now understood that whenever we import a character, it's just not one file that drives it. We have the skeletal file, the skeleton, the skeletal mesh, and the physics asset. So what we should do now is create an animation blueprint and start making our character feel alive. To create the animation blueprint, we just need to right-click, animation, animation blueprint. Here, I believe you can also right-click your skeletal mesh and create anim blueprint, which is easier, right? So let's do that. Let's call it anim bp dash, and yeah, that should be fine. So anim blueprint Calypso simple no code. Let's double click, and now we will find that our persona editor has this new button here. We can still access the skeletal mesh, the skeletal, and the physics asset. So let's save it. Let's save everything. Save all. And the map I really don't need, so save selected. Now, let's open again the animation blueprint, and we will see the editor of the animation blueprint. This editor is split in two very important parts. One is the anim graph, the animation graph, and the other one is the event graph. So, what's the difference? The animation graph will determine which animations are gonna play, and the event graph will help the anim graph by getting values, like for example the velocity, if your character is in air, and all that sort of stuff that will be needed for the animation graph to work. Right, here we have a little preview of what our animation blueprint will do, and here we will be able to add some variables, functions, macros, is pretty similar to the blueprint editor with the animation graph on top. At the right side, we will have the asset browser which should show some animations if we had one. And we will be importing some of those in a minute. And here we will have the Anim Preview editor. Here we will see stuff that we can edit just for preview, or if we want to edit the default, we can do it also. It's really useful if you are testing variables, for example, is in air. You just want to test real quick how it will work in your pre-visualization. And let me hide the bones. So we will see how we can get the most out of this later in the example. So let's grab some animations, right? So animations we can get from the templates that already exist here and also from the marketplace. Let's make it easy and quick by going here, adding, and add feature or content pack. We will select the third person, add to project, and now we will have some animations that are from the mannequin animations. We could retarget all the animation blueprint, but let's not do that, so it will kind of defeat the purpose, right? So these are animation sequences, it will say in the browser. We can double click them and we will see how they work, right? If we want them to use them here with our character, then we will need to retarget them, because even though this character is following the Unreal conventions of the bones, it doesn't mean that it has the same skeleton. So how can we retarget it quickly is, well, we can open an animation, we can go to the skeleton asset, let's click on Retarget Manager, and here set up a rig, select humanoid rig, and this should be really fine. Let's save it. Let's go to my character, and let me close everything. Let's go to my character. Let's go to my skeleton asset, Retarget Manager, select humanoid rig, and be sure that here something is matching with this name. These are the names used by Unreal, the Unreal convention of naming joints and bones. And I believe this specific character had a little trouble with the head. If you're using characters that you have rigged and you forgot to name this the same, then you will probably have this same issue. So it's something I will fix later, but in this case it's really useful to show this kind of error. So we just need to select the bone that should be the equal, right? So head 1, that's the same bone. Now with this, let's just save it, and this character is posed in a pose that is really similar to my mannequin, so I would not need to worry too much about modifying the pose and trying to get it really equal in the pose. So if you didn't have the same pose, then you would need to bone by bone start moving it. Whenever you get the right pose, then you will need to modify pose, use current pose, and then you would use this as a retargeting pose. But in my case, that's not the case. So now that we have set up this, we can go to the content browser again, find the animation that I want to retarget, select all the animations that I want, right click it, and retarget animasset, duplicate it, select my other character. And if you are not seeing this, if there is no preview mesh, then you can't retarget just yet. Let's right click our character because I have it here. Let's edit it. And here, let's go to the skeleton tree. And where was it? Here, preview scene settings tab. Here in the preview scene settings tab, inside the skeleton asset, here in the mesh, you need to click on apply in order for the retarget to work properly. So let's click apply, save it, and now when we go to the content browser and we want to retarget these animations, right click, retarget anim assets. If we click in our character, now it will show our character. Seems it's a little bit big, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is that the pose needs to be really similar. I want them to be inside, not in the content folder, so let's put it inside Calypso folder, new folder animations. Okay, and select it, and now it will default there. Retarget, and now the animations are being retargeted. I don't know if it did it really fast. Seems it did. Let's go to Calypso animations, and here it is. Now if we double click any animation, let's go for a walk animation, should be working. Sometimes the legs and the arms can give you problems, so the recommended setup for the bones when we're retargeting things, here you can see that it's being really weird. Let's just go to a skeleton asset, and in the skeleton tree tab, let's click on this cog and show retargeted options. In the root, I will click and recursively set everything to a skeleton. But we just need to set up here in the root animation, the pelvis animation scale, and the twists, the eye case, I'm sorry. Right click it recursively to animation, IK hand, also retarget, recursively set translation, retargeting animation. Now let's see how that looks. Let's go to the third person walk. And well, some of the things I was looking that were like really weird are not there anymore. Now we have seen that it works. Our retargeting work. It's just a thing of making these animations also work in the world. So let's save everything except the map for now. And let me close this. And let me open the animation blueprint again. So Calypso anim blueprint, double click it. Here now we can test, for example, what does it mean, this node inside the anim graph output pose. This is the end node where the animation I want to play will play. For example, if I just select my run, drag it here, connect it like this, and compile, it will run it because I'm just telling it, hey, use this animation, and that will be the output pose. We can save it, and now we can assign it to any skeletal mesh that we have inside our map or inside another blueprint, right? So here, let's not simulate the physics. A skeletal mesh. Here on top will be animation mode. You could use an animation asset, like this is the same as we have done in the animation blueprint, or now we can also use the animation blueprint we created. So use animation blueprint. Here we can select the one we created and it will show us the same thing as the preview. Yeah, right. So the preview really helps us to see what's happening. But this is really not a character that we would like in our game, right? This is no way to control a character. For controlling a character, given that we have already imported the third-person blueprint, we could just, here in the third-person blueprint folder, blueprints, drag and drop, and we can, let's search here in details, process, player 0, and now we should be able to control it. Let me drag it again. It was simulating, so it didn't save. Let's find it again. Player 0, play. I'm simulating. Selected viewport, and now we're controlling this, right? Let's just change it to our character. I don't want to create another blueprint. I don't want to complicate stuff too much, right? Although I will add some attacks later, so let's just duplicate this third-person character, okay? Here, just gonna drag it on top of Calypso folder, copy it. Now we should have a third-person character, F2 to rename it, BP Calypso. Let's now this drag and drop it. Let me delete this, and here let me possess it, auto possess it. Now it seems like it's the same, but it's another blueprint. And this blueprint, gonna press Ctrl E to modify it. Doesn't seem to work, so right click, edit it. And now if we go to a viewport, we can change this skeletal mesh for the one that I want, Calypso. Yeah, should be fine. And I can select the animation class of my animation blueprint. Now there's some code here that adds the input, right? There's some move forward, add some movement input in the direction of the forward vector, right? It adds it to the right direction. And we can also jump. So let's not get to worry about it. We can understand this later if you want to know more about blueprints. But in our case, we just want to get it going with the animation. Let's test it. If we press play, we will see that we have our character, and yeah, we can fake that it's running, but it's always running, right? So we need to tell it when to stop and when to start running. Right. So how would we do that? Let me delete this. It will be through the animation blueprint. Let's open it, browse to it, double click it. So now we need to know if it's running or if it's just standing there, right? So we will need to get that stuff from the event graph. I will do it very simply, very easily, just to get it going. You will be able to create more complicated stuff, but if you really don't know anything about it, it will be easier the way I'm doing it right now. But take into account that it's just an example. So we need to get if our character is moving. The event graph will be perfect for it. There is this event blueprint update animation, and this runs not exactly every frame, but every time we need to update it, the animation, right? So let's imagine it runs every frame for the sake of argument. Every frame we should know if our character is moving or not. How would we get our character? Exactly through this node. the try get pound owner will try to get the owner of this animation blueprint. And if you remember, in our blueprint here, the owner of this animation blueprint is the skeletal mesh. Because here I'm putting the animation blueprint. So the owner is this skeletal mesh, and the owner of this skeletal mesh is this blueprint. So we just need to know if this is a character, a pound, if it's our own blueprint. Well, if we needed something specific for this blueprint, right? In this case, we don't. We just need to know the velocity, and we want to know if it's 0 or if it isn't, because that way we can know if our character is moving forward or not. So here, the pawn, we can get the velocity, I believe. Get velocity. Here it is. Get velocity. Because every actor has this function where we can get its velocity. Now, we need to store this velocity someplace. But we really need to make sure, do we really just need the velocity? We just need to know it's the length of the velocity, but it will be the speed that our character is going forwards, or well, to any side, right? We really don't mind if it's sideways or if it's forwards. So we just need a scalar value, not a vector, not a value with 3 numbers, just a scalar value that is 1 number. So the way we can get this out of any vector is by getting the vector length. The vector length is, we can get it by the square of each component and then the square root, but let's not dwell too much in the mathematics. This is just giving me the speed of this velocity. The speed is a number. That's why here this is a float value. This was a vector that we can break. You see that there is an x value, y value, z value. We don't matter. We don't care. Doesn't matter. Here I just have one value, and this I will call it promote to variable. Let's call it just speed. Now, before we can connect it, it's a good practice to check if this animation blueprint has an owner. So let's use the isValid node, and if it is valid, let's just save the speed. Now that we created this variable, and let's compile it, we will see it here in my blueprint tab here. And also we will be able to see it in the animation preview edit. Right now it will be driven by an actual value, but if we were to disconnect it, we could set up and change it here if we just want to test, and here if we want to change the default value. Now, how can we use this speed? Let's go to the animation graph, and let me drag and drop my idle animation. Now, if the speed is 0, I want it to show the idle, and if it isn't, I wanted to show it running. Let's just drag from here the third person idle, and there should be a blend by bool, by a boolean, by a true or false value. This is the true pose, this is the false pose, and this will be the result. Now we need to set up the active value. It could be, let me compile it. Right now it's false, so it's playing the run. If I click the check, then it would play the idle. Right, but I don't want to set up this manually. Let's just get the speed. Get it? And if it's true, it's the idle pose. So if the speed is equal to 0, it should be idle. And if it isn't, then it will go to the false. We can test it. Remember? Edit preview, we can change the speed. Now it isn't 0, so it's playing the false. Return it to 0. And now it's showing me the idle animation. Right, so let's rewire our stuff in the event graph here. Now it really won't matter if we change it here, because it will be driven by the actual movement of the player. Right, so let's test it. Here, play, the speed is 0. If we move around, the speed is no longer 0, so it is doing the action that we wanted, right? So this is a simple setup to get a character running, but this character will have a lot more of stuff to do. For example, jumping. And yeah, that doesn't work really. Even though jumping changes my velocity from 0, it shouldn't play that animation. And that's where we enter the next stage, that is using state machines. So what are state machines? Let's go back to the animation blueprint. Oh, I had it open here. Whenever we need more than one state of our character, and this is almost 100% of the time, let's say 99.9% of the time, this type of blending won't work. I mean, you can also, let's do it quickly. We could still use something like this. For example, speed is 0, right? So it will play the third person idle. We can do another blend. Poses by bool. And now we need to know if the character is jumping, right? So we need to assign it somewhere here. But let me just create the variable is in air to know if it's in the air or if it is jumping, right? It doesn't matter for now, this, unless we want to preview it here in the world, but let's just try it like this. Gonna put it here, and if it's in air, I don't want to play the run, I want to play the jump loop. Let's connect it like this, and let's compile it. Now, if our speed is greater, it will play our run, and if we're in air, let's check it, it will play this loop. If we stop being in air, then it goes back to the running animation, and it's already solved, right? We could also set it up for the preview. We just put it like this, and if you know something about the classes in Unreal, this blueprint, this character blueprint, is a character class, and this character class has this character movement, and this character movement component has most of the stuff that we need regarding the motion of the character. So we can cast this to the character, something like this, and the character should give me something called is falling, which gets it out of the character movement component and tells me if it's falling. If it's falling, then it is definitely in air. Now let's test it. Should give me the same result as the preview, right? So it's definitely working, but it's a little rough, right? we know that we have more animations like the jump start and the jump end. And we could try to extend this, right? Something like this for the jump end. And the jump start will be need to be something like this. And you can see it gets really messy, really fast. So these are states, if we think about it. A state is something that, for example, we can't be running if we are idle. So there are two different states. One state where you're in motion and one where you're just static. One where you are starting to jump and one where you are actually in the air just falling. So let's delete all of this and let's create an state machine. Add new state machine. This state machine looks a little bit weird, right? Well, it's because it contains more nodes. We can double click it. Let's just call it locomotion, because it will be the basic motion of our character. And let's connect it like this. So the result of this state machine will be going to our output pose, and that's what we will be able to see. So let's click on the locomotion state machine, and we have this entry. Right now, if I were to compile it, it wouldn't know what to play because we haven't added any state. So let's add a state. Add state, and the most basic state of this locomotion action or animation, if you want to call it, is just an idle. This idle, if we double click it, we can set up which animation we want to use. And we have an idle animation. Let's just do it like this. Let's compile it. We can click on this, I believe it's called breadcrumbs. So we can go out, or we can press these arrows. I can use also the mouse button, so if you see my screen jumping up and down, it's because of them. Now, our preview shows the idle animation. If I press play, it will also show the idle animation, but there are no other states, so it stays in this animation. Let's create more states. What other states did we have? We have, where's my animation blueprint here? The running. We also have some walking, but let's not worry too much about that right now. Let's create another state. Running. And I mistyped that. Now let's double click it and put our run animation. If we compile, we will see a warning. We can go back, and it is because, and I have it here also, it's because there isn't a possible way to access our running animation. Even though we could be moving around, it isn't entering here. This is because we haven't defined a rule. This is the rule. We haven't defined a rule to access this. So let's double click. Can enter the transition. If you press the check, it will always enter that, and it will always play the running animation. So what we need to do is the same validation we did with the speed. Here, if our speed, in this case, this is to enter the running animation, so we need to ask if our speed is greater than 0. So this is the symbol I typed. If it is greater than 0, let's connect it. Let's compile it. we will see our preview. Let's go back to the locomotion, and we can change here in the animation preview editor, edit preview, change the speed, and now it will go to the running state, right? Let's try it again. Right now it's 0. If it's less than 0, doesn't matter, doesn't work because I chose greater, not different. But if it's greater than 0, which the speed will most likely be, then it goes to running. But if we went back to 0 here, it stays running. That's because we haven't set up a rule for our state machine to go back to the initial state that it's idle. How do we do it? Easy. Let's just drag and drop an arrow from this state to the idle one and set up the returning rule. Here, if my speed is equal to 0, then it should go back. Now, speed greater than 0, go back to 0, works. Does it work here while playing? Let's go back to 0. It does. It does work. The jumping won't work. We need to create it again. So let's create another state called jumping. Now, let's say we're jumping in place. We can jump from the idle, right? So let's create it from here. Jump. And I will use the looping animation, so let's call it jump loop. Double click it, set up the loop animation. Let's connect it here, locomotion, and we need to set up the rule. We already know is in air. If it's true, then it should go. Let's test it. Right, and we didn't set up the how to go back here, right? So let's use the same thing. I'm holding control, so it just defaults to get. And here is in air. Let's tell it not. So we are denying is in air, because if it's not in the air, then we should go back to my idle position, right? Should be looking something like this. Is in air, true. Is not in air, goes back. If it works here, then it would probably work here also. Now, what happens? And this is something very cool with Unreal. Whenever our game is running, here we can select if we want to debug it. And I want to select the animation blueprint currently in game. This will show me exactly what's happening, right? So what will happen if we're running and then we jump? It won't work, because there isn't a connection to the jump loop state. It will only work if I'm standing. How can we fix it? Let's add the connections, right? It's pretty simple. And a way to go back. And it's easy to mess the rules, so be sure to just hover on it, and now you know this one is for the arrow going back. Let's do a not. So if it's not inner, we go back, and now it should be working just fine like we had it before. But this does allow us to have more complex animation and behavior without being too without having to read a series of bools like true, false. Oh, it is running. Oh, now it is jumping, and now it is in place, right? For example, we want to add the start and the end animation for this? What we could do is create a new state. Let's start with the jump start. Should be able to go from any of these places. Let's just start with the idle. Add state, jump, start. I'm gonna disconnect this. Let's just select it and delete it, or right click, delete it. And here is inner. Jump start should play the jump start. And if we leave it like this, then it plays the jump start, but it's looping and I really don't want it to loop. So here, let's click on loop animation. Right. Now, when this animation ends, I want to play the loop one. And if this animation is looping, it won't end. So that's why, another reason why I disable the loop checkbox. So I just need to connect the jump start to the jump loop, like this. And I need to add a rule, a transition rule, for it to work. Let's double click it. And we can ask, how does my state call jump start? Let's go again to a rule, right click and type jump start. Here we have a state wait, jump start, get relevant anim length, anim time remaining, which that sounds really interesting, and the remaining fraction. So what we need? Well, we could use any one of these. It doesn't matter. This one will return in seconds. This will return in a value between 0 and 1, which is a lot easier to work with. So let's use it. This is, remember, this is jump start. I'm talking about the state, because here, oops, you can also select the, for example, how is this being called? Time remaining. Let's just type time remaining. There is the jump start, the state, or the time remaining ratio of the animation. And if I use the animation later, if I want to change this, for example, let me change it for the jump end, it will throw me an error because it doesn't exist, right? Oh, it's showing me an error. Let me equal 0. And even though it doesn't exist, I will get only wrong answers because we're not using the animation. So let's return it to the jump start. Let's go back to the animation rule. And this remaining fraction should be 0, because if it's remaining 0, then the animation ended, right? Compile it, save it. Let's try it on the preview. Is in error. It's still playing our jump start, and that's because I did not uncheck this. Let's do it again. Is in error. And after our animation ended, and let me return this to the preview instance so we can see it again. Compile it to reset it. Is in error, jump start, it ends, then it goes to the jump loop. So now we know this transition is working, and the same should be done for the jump end. From the jump loop, we should go to the jump end. The jump end has its own animation. Also, we don't want it to loop. The transition rule is simple. Whenever our jump loop finishes, we should go to a jump end. But when do we know it finishes? Well, when we are in the ground. And when we're in the ground is the same transition rule as this one. So let's copy it and paste it here. Now, we really don't need these transitions. We need to, this jump end, go to one of these two. It should go to both to work, right? So let's just do both. And it should go to the next, well, to the idle or to running, depending if this has ended, right? So here, let's call jump end. Remember, the state, not the animation. And get time remaining fraction. If it's equal than 0, then we can enter. And it should work the same with this, right? Well, no. Maybe it will give me an error because it's the same, or doesn't give me an error, but let's see what happens. It's in error, it's not in error, jump end, and goes. It went to the running and then to the idle. And it sometimes will go to the idle without going to the running because it's the same transition rule. In this case, we need to be sure, if I want to go to the idle, jump end to idle, then I also need to check if the speed is also 0. Here I have my speed. If this is also 0, then I will go to the idle. And I could leave this like this because it will only enter if this fails, but let's just in case double check it. So something like this. And here, if its speed is greater than 0, now there shouldn't be any type of problems when going back to a pose, to a state. There's no ambiguity here. If I'm moving, speed is greater, then it will go to running, and when I stop, it will go there. Should work exactly the same here. And it didn't work exactly the same here. Oh, why didn't it work? I didn't I didn't connect this running to the jump start. So there was no way for it to work. It's in error. Now we can check it. Should work now. And we have the jump end animation. Well, now that's working. And we see that it's a little messy, right? Yeah, just a little bit. How can we change it to... And this is because we are splitting the idle and running. There is a cleaner way for this implementation by using Blendspace. And I believe we should talk about that now. To create a blend shape, you just need to go to Content Drawer, in the animations, right-click animations, and here select Blendspace, Blendspace 1 dimension. Or you can, I don't know if you can do it from here, create Animation Montage. No, you need to go to your skeletal mesh, right-click, create, and here we will have a Blendspace 1 dimension. In our case, we will use a 1 dimensions blend space, so it's easier to understand at first. So let's create it, and I will move it to my animation folder. Move here. Oh, and let me save all. If this crashes, I will cry. You really don't know with Unreal 5. Let's rename it to Blendspace Calypso Locomotion. What is a blend space? A blend space, it's a way that we will be able to mix animations and make them smoother. And also it will save us time, because we won't be pressed to create transition animations, which should be, for example, from the idle to the running, it's too rough. Well, it's not rough because we're using this state machine. I believe that here's the here, this is the thing that is blending the animation, right? I will put it to 0 so you can see how rough it is really, right? Should be like that. And if you wanted a starting animation or a walking animation, you could put it here and then check the values. If it's, I don't know, greater than 200 velocity, then we play the walking, and if it's greater than 600, we play the running, something like that. But an easier way is by using Blendspace. Let me open the Blendspace we just created. A Blendspace will look like this. This is a one-dimension Blendspace, so we only have a horizontal track. We can move it by holding Shift to preview the value. But we need some animations here. When it's 0, I want it to be in the idle here, and now it's always an idle. But when it's the topmost value, right now it says 100, but we can modify it. Let's just call it run. We will see that whenever this value is reached, it will use this animation. We can preview it now, and we can see that with lower values, we are blending between those two animations. And we can blend more than two. We can add our walking animation, for example, here. So, because, I mean, this really doesn't look like walking, right? So, whenever the engine doesn't give you like good enough result, then you should really animate it. In this case, we have the walk, and now we blend it between idle and a walking, and here we could get like a slow motion walking, like being really cautious. And from the walk, we can blend easily to our running animation. Now, how do we use this? First, let me set up this name. It's really shouldn't be none, shouldn't stay at none. So here in axis settings, let's call it speed, because that's the value that we will use. And we will use it because that's a value that we already have. So with this speed, what I will need to do is use this. And let's see here, let's go to our locomotion. If you don't find it, if this was closed for some reason, you can go to the animation graph, double click it, locomotion, and here we are again. Right, so we have a way to blend animations from the idle, walking, and the running. So this state is really not needed anymore. Let's delete it. This idle, I'm gonna rename it as idle run. And I'm gonna double click it, remove this animation, just delete it, and drag and drop my blend space. Now this blend space is receiving a speed value. Let's just hook it up. And technically it should work. If my speed here, I change it to 0, 1, it's starting to move really slowly. If we go to 100, it should go to the full value because we defined that 100 was the full value. But if we play it, we're not getting any walk. One, because I'm using a keyboard, so I won't be able to see it, but also because the value we're receiving is not 100, it's probably more. We can test it by here, event graph. I'm gonna do a print string, gonna set it up to 0 so I don't spam myself, and I'm gonna connect it here. The speed to my print string, let's press play, and here we have 0, we move around, we get 600. So that's why we're seeing this. Now I could go here and modify the value to 600. And maybe you are asking yourself, oh, where is this character getting that 600? Well, in my character blueprint Calypso here, that I copy and pasted from the third person example, in my character movement, there will be a value in walking that it's called max walk speed, and here's the 600. So if I press play now we are getting a little bit of the startup of the walking and then the maximum value of the running. We could change it by setting up the maximum acceleration and the let's set it like quarter of this, so it's slower. Yeah, now we see all the values, right? And it's working, right? But if I wanted to move faster or slower, this will not work. Let's see, if I put my max walk speed to 200, then I will be stuck in my walking animation. And I mean, probably you don't want to be running at this speed, right? But it limits you at the time of testing. So what we will do is, here, this value, we will set it up between 0 and 1. If we wanted to add different types of divisions, we can add more divisions here. If we needed to fine-tune where should we walk, for now 4 is fine. So 0 is not walking, 0.25 is walking, and 1 is running. Right, so if we try it here, it will default to our running animation, right? So we need to convert this speed to the actual value that we need. So this speed would be really, and it's easier to do, just call some map range. Let's clamp it so we are not getting values out of the ones that we need. We need the value, this is fine, but we need to clamp it and set up the ranges. We want it to be from 0, obviously, and we need the maximum value. The maximum value, we can get it from the character movement and max walk speed. So I'm gonna have to move this here because I'm gonna use the character movement. Gonna do something like this. And from the character movement, I can get the max walk speed. This max walk speed will be the maximum range. Well, the maximum input range. So our input range is from 0 to 600. And I'm gonna do something like this so it doesn't get too complicated. There we go. Now we want an out range where the out range is the blend space 0 and 1. So let's put 0 and 1. Now this node will do some math, the rule of 3, just to tell that, oh, if it's 600, it's being translated to 1. If it's 0, it's translated to 0. If it's a value in between, then it will be 0.5. But this node does it for us. Now we save it, play it, and it should work. If we wanted to change this max walk speed to 200, it will work also, because we're getting it from the actual blueprint and is not a value that is hard-coded. And every value that is floating around, if you see, for example, here a 600, you will come back to the project not even 2 months, 2 weeks later, you will start asking yourself, what is this 600 number, right? If I'm connected like this, then, oh, it's the walk speed. It says so. So that's how we can get the most out of the blend spaces. We can create blend spaces for a lot of stuff, and it's usually done for the locomotion, because when you have blueprints more complicated and with more animations, for example, moving side to side, moving the head, you will need not only one dimension, you will need a forward speed and a right speed, like a horizontal speed. So you can blend between a lot of animations. We can do a tutorial on that another time. This is just the very basics that you need to understand in order for it to work. And let me see if I'm missing something. And I believe I'm not missing anything, really. At least for now. You could put it like this. As long as you understand it, then it will be fine. And let me return it to the normal acceleration, so I can move around, I can jump around. Oh, and here I got stuck for some reason. We can debug it on our animation blueprint. And nope. I'm gonna select the one that is spawned and try to reproduce the error. I'm stuck here in the jump end because I'm also testing this, and that's some code I forgot to delete, and now it should be fine, because now it really doesn't matter when it goes back, because here we're handling if we're walking, if we're walking or running. Yeah, that's better. Now it's working properly. As a little bonus, I wanted to add an attack to this character we just created. And it's really easy. I will show you a quick way to add it. First, you need an animation. I just got an animation pack from the marketplace. This one was free for the month. called bossy enemy. There it is, bossy enemy. It has a lot of cool animations. I wanted any attack really, just wanted to try it out. And I retargeted the same way I show you. So this is the result of the retarget. Now that we have an attack, I should probably make my character hold a weapon. I don't have her weapon yet, but let's do something like, I don't know, a cylinder. And this cylinder, let's scale it a little bit. Like this. Nope. Like, nope. Come on. Like this, too much. Gonna put it to 1. 0.1. And this one, 1. Okay. 2 would be better. 1.5. So I want my character to grab it, right? A way we can do it is through sockets. So let's go to our skeletal mesh and to the skeleton asset. And here we can, for example, select a bone, hand right click it, add socket. And I'm gonna place it, gonna just wing it and place it probably here, maybe, could be. Save it, gonna call it weapon socket. And I'm gonna go back to my blueprint, and this cylinder, gonna put it to attach it to the skeletal mesh. Here, gonna select the socket I want. Socket, weapon socket. And now it's using the weapon socket. Gonna reset it. It's not exactly like I want it, so gonna do something like this. Gonna remove it. Gonna add a scene here, but not there. The cylinder will be a child of the scene. The scene will be attached to the mesh. Now the scene will be with a socket. And let's reset some of the locations here. Location, reset. Rotation, also, it's good. Reset it. Now here, the cylinder, let's reset everything. I'm gonna move it so it fits. Yeah, something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. 0.05. That's a lot better. And if we needed to move around, we can just move the socket here. For example, like here, save it, and it will be updated there. So now I have in my character holding something that looks like a weapon, right? And it's too large. Let me reduce it to 1. And then move this. If you don't want to see this animation here in simulation, you can just move it like this. There we go. Compile, save it. We could have removed this, right? None. Compile it, then static, right? So now let's add the attack. We need a button so I can click and it attacks. So settings, project settings, input, action mapping, because it's just a one-time thing. We click, we release, then we attack. Let's call it attack. Here, We can search for the left click, or we can click here and click, left mouse button is called. Great. Let's go back to my blueprint, my character blueprint. Let me close this so it's not noise. Right, so here in my character blueprint, I'm gonna go to the event graph, and here we have inputs, input actions, and we can add the one we created called attack. Now, when we press it, we want to do something. We want our character to attack. Where is the animation of the attack? Is in my animation blueprint. Well, it should be there. So what I will do is get the mesh, cast it. No, get the animation blueprint called anim instance. This anim instance is the animation blueprint that was created here. So let's open the animation blueprint. And here, oh, this was the skeletal mesh. This is the animation blueprint. Let's open it. And here, let's return to the event graph. Here I'm gonna create an event called attack. Oh, custom event, attack. Compile it, save it. And now in my blueprint, from this animation, get anim instance, gonna cast it to my animation blueprint. And I'm gonna call here attack. Now, I want to play my attack animation, and I don't really want to set up a variable here like it's attacking, and here I'm gonna get it's attacking, and then I'm gonna create I'm gonna adapt my locomotion state machine. Nah, it's too much trouble. What we can do is use an animation montage to manage our attacks. Let's create an animation montage. Content drawer, an animation, and here we can select the animation we want. This is the one we want. Swinging, yeah, that's the one we want. Right click it, create animation montage. Gonna call it animation montage and whatever name it had before. Let's call it attack. Animation montage attack. Or heavy attack. Let's open it. And we will see that our animation montage has the animation we added, has these sections that we can see and preview here. We can create more sections here if we need it. We can remove link. We can have more than one section and preview them. But this may be a little bit advanced. With only this simple animation montage, we can already do a lot of stuff, like do the attack. Let's save it. Let's go back to my animation blueprint. We can click here and go there directly. Event graph, and in our attack event, let's call play animation. Bueno, play montage. Here, play montage, that wasn't it. Here is asking me which skeleton mesh component should it use. Should be called montage play. Yeah, it's a little weird. Montage play. Gonna select heavy attack, play rate, and it's fine. Let's play. Let's see if it works. It doesn't. But is it reaching here? I can right click and put a breakpoint here, toggle breakpoint, and see if it's working. Seems it's not working. Not at all. Really? Is this working? I just pressed F9. It's the same as toggling. It is working. I'm gonna step into attack, Right, so it is getting here, but it's not working. Why? Because whenever we're using a montage, we need to also define it in our animation graph. So let's go to animation graph. Here, we just need to press slot default. This slot default is like, we can set it up here, default group. We can change this default group, but we really don't need to slot name. We can create new slots. Usually it's done when you need some animation to only play on the upper part of the body. You can call it upper slot, or only in the legs, lower, or only the head slot. Default slot usually means all the body. Usually, not really, but usually. So here we are enabling that. So play again. Oh, let me remove this. And now we have the animation playing. The thing is, we can move around and it's really nasty. And also, the animation makes you go back, right? Yeah, that's not really cool, right? The thing with this animation is that it's using something called root motion. Root motion is animating the root bone or the root joint inside your animation package. So if we see here bones or hierarchy, we see that there is the movement in the root. And we can click here in the details and activate that root motion. Oh, well, this is the montage. Let's open the animation, open asset. And now here there should be a checkbox, enable root motion. This will make it stay in place. With that, we can play again. We can do the attack animation, and we will stay there because the root motion is giving us that movement. It's really useful also with collision, so we can attack walls and don't collide. You can read a lot more about root motion if you like. I don't really want to spend too much time of it. This is just a little bonus to an attack. And to fix, by enabling the root motion, even if I move around, you can see that I'm trying to move around. It won't let me because all the movement is being obtained by the root motion. Now, what would happen if I click more than once? I click again here, it resets. Doesn't look very good, right? The player will do this. We can control that if we go to our attack, and here we can check if there is a montage active. So if montage set stop play is playing, we can define a montage. I believe if you don't, it gets any montage. Let's test it. If not, I can define this. If it's playing, then I don't want this to play. So if it's not playing, we should play another montage. Play doesn't let me until it finishes, right? Now it's an enemy animation, so it's understandable that it has a lot of wind up, a lot of anticipation, right? We can change the play rate to 3 here, play, and now it's a lot faster. So that's great. Now we have it. We have added a simple attack animation to our character that we imported and that we set up easily inside Unreal Engine. So we have learned how to give life to a character inside Unreal. We have learned the animation workflow and how does the animation editor works. Also how to use Blendspaces, state machines, and animation montages very easily. With this knowledge, you can now start using any type of character asset from the marketplace. Will probably work, will have the same file types we have seen here, and you can start adding more functionality, creating more complex animation blueprints and state machines to get wherever you want to transmit with your character. So hopefully it was clear enough. Remember, you can always support us by giving us a like, sharing this with your friends, and subscribing. So, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.